All right, good morning, everybody. It is about 10:45 in Los Angeles. It is Friday, November 3rd. This is Politics with Roger. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. My goodness, I cannot understate, actually, the news that we're having in this news cycle. Really, the news since Donald Trump has taken over as president. We've been in basically a larger news cycle where we are approaching an end of an era. That era is what I call the age of misinformation that began, of course, November 22nd, 1963, with the assassination of John F. Kennedy and the cover-up, the subsequent cover-up. We are in the end of that age of information. I believed growing up my entire life that we were growing up living in the age of information. I think someday historians will agree that the age of misinformation, the age of cognitive dissonance, suspended disbelief, the age of misinformation preceded the age of information. The age of information, the true information age, will be a Renaissance period, a time that raises humanity up and basically it just makes a better human experience for everybody on the planet. Just like the previous Renaissance period. The age of misinformation is not a Renaissance period. So we look forward to the fall of this, this era of lies that was perpetrated by powerful media, mass media. We got so much to cover today. Everything from JFK docs being released by our government. The collapse, the utter collapse of the media industrial complex that was used by our government to basically control the population, to control the political and media narratives. There's 3 stories supporting the premise that the media industrial complex is falling apart. You got, of course, maybe 4 stories. The JFK docs. You have the complete collapse of Hollywood and the debasing of credibility and authority and influence of Hollywood. You have the Las Vegas story, which has seemed to have disappeared. It is now morphed into a cover-up story, and this calls into question the credibility of the FBI in these types of matters. People are now questioning the information that is being distributed by the FBI when we have an attack like this. Nobody believes the narrative. I digress. We'll get in that in a second. It's hard to put one above the other. Incredible bombshell stories. Russia and DNC corruption. Since Donald Trump took the presidency, the corporate media complex, the mainstream media, the dinosaur media, whatever you call them out there in TV land still, NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, the New York Times, PBS, NPR, the player, Salon.com, Washington Post, goes on and on. They have been accusing a legitimately elected President Donald Trump of colluding with Russia to steal an election, and we find out this week that basically the Democrats have been, or the Democrat leadership, I want to start separating the Democrat Party from the, basically, when I say the Democrat Party, I'm no longer referring to your average Democrat voter in America. When I say the Democrat Party, really I'm referring to, at this point, Hillary Clinton, the Obamas, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, just the leadership. And I don't even mean Tony Perez, the current, I think he's DNC chair, but that's his official title. The Democrat Party is in shambles. Donna Brazille came out this week and exposed a lot about DNC corruption during the primary. We'll touch on that in just a second, but so much going on. And lastly, we'll touch a little bit on Antifa and some of the events going on this week, November 4th, what we think about that, and some other various headlines happening. So much going on. I'm going to have to try to move very fast today to get within the 20 minutes we always try to get into. Anyway, headline, NBC News, JFK files. J. Edgar Hoover said public must believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. CBS News, JFK assassination files. Hoover said FBI must convince the public Oswald acted alone. So right there, two stories that immediately blows the single shooter theory out of the water. Just to comment about this, I mean, this is historic. I grew up, they've been telling me my entire life in public schools and public textbooks that John F. Kennedy was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald, who acted alone. And we find out just from these documents immediately that this was a lie for 50 years to the American public. It's bombshell. It's bombshell. And we haven't even gone down the rabbit hole on what actually did happen yet. There's a large discussion to have about that. We can have that at another time. This is the news. It is analysis, but we don't have time. We don't even have time to talk about the ramifications of this bombshell news. But it doesn't stop there. There was more from the JFK files. And just before I get into this, also, oh, here, I missed this one from Fox News, JFK files. From second shooter to Mexico trip, top questions, assassination documents could answer. A lot of stuff out there. There was also more from the JFK files about Hitler. This is also from CBS News. JFK docs show CIA heard rumor that Adolf Hitler escaped to South America. And this is Ynet World News. JFK docs hint Hitler may have escaped to Colombia. This is the JFK docs and the CIA. So, again, just bombshell. I mean, I can't even put into words. What this means when you put two and two together is our CIA had enough evidence to believe, or at least to expend resources in investigating whether or not Hitler was alive in South America in the 1950s. Now, the obvious question is, hey, if the United States government knew Hitler died in World War II when he had commit suicide with his girlfriend, lover, whatever, Eva Braun, why would the United States have to follow this lead and spend resources, CIA assets, to look into it? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because they were uncertain. But I bet when we went to school growing up, if they even touched on World War II and the demise of Hitler, they told you he had committed suicide, and that was the end of the discussion. So here are two documents right away that blows that out of the water. And this is such big news. Now, let me just take a step back, because I'm not reporting news. I'm not reporting that Hitler escaped from Germany in World War II and started to live in South America. I'm reporting that the CIA thinks that Hitler may have escaped from Germany in World War II and escaped to South America. Now, we don't know the full story, and hey, we're the citizen journalists now, we're the media now. This is where the researchers take over and look into these kind of things. So, you know, now it's out there to find, and now we can find out what really happened. But there's enough evidence out here, just on that alone, from the JFK docs, two major, they turn out to be lies or conspiracy theories. Hey, it turned out to be the truth that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. And there is now doubt that Hitler died in World War II. You know, and 2 weeks ago, I would have told you, hey, you know, someone presented this information to me a lot of times. I would just kind of say, you know, this would be one conspiracy theory that I would have said that's a bridge too far for me to get into. The fact that the CIA came out with these documents, again, whenever these kind of things happen, it forces you to rethink what you know, because you know it's hard to it's hard to come to the conclusion, or to come to the it's just hard to come to resolution when you know you've been lied to for such a long time, and you know, even when to have doubt like this regarding Hitler in World War II, after you've been told your entire life in school by every authority figure, every authority institution that you had ever known had gotten information either wrong, whether on purpose or intentionally, I mean, you know, messes things up. So huge stories, guys. These are the JFK docs this week. Mainstream media were saying before they were released that Trump wouldn't do it. Trump did do it. And what do we find out? Lee Harvey Oswald and Hitler. Okay, moving on. FBI, DNC corruption, Russia, and Robert Mueller. On Monday, Robert Mueller indicted Paul Manafort, an operative working with the Trump administration during the primary and election. I had predicted last week that this indictment by Robert Mueller would go nowhere, would not politically hurt the president at all, and it will turn out falling flat. And also what I had said was it's going to expose really FBI corruption, Democrat National Committee corruption, Clinton Foundation corruption, the evidence that will be presented in the effort to indict Paul Manafort. This is going to backfire dramatically on Robert Mueller, and you kind of see it already has. The indictment is very weak on Paul Manafort, and it's really, from a strategy standpoint, it was used by Robert Mueller because they're hoping Paul Manafort would, I don't know what, maybe give up information on Donald Trump, basically become a snitch, if you understand that terminology, on Donald Trump, on anything, on just anything. They're really just grasping for straws at this point. Manafort's not going to back down. Manafort is not going to yield to this indictment. They'll go all the way through court. It's not going to make any kind of deal. He'll have his day in court, and I think we're going to find out that no crime was committed. But even then, if you look into the charges that Manafort brought, Mueller brought against Manafort, Paul Manafort. It's at a time when Paul Manafort did not even work for Donald Trump in the campaign, and it actually tied him closer to the Podesta brothers, who have their own problems, which we can't even get into today. There's so much going on. But anyway, we see the FBI DNC corruption connection with the Russia dossier. Robert Mueller made his big move this week, and his big move was a dud, a total dud. This thing will fall apart. It already had fallen apart, but this was the deep state, the FBI's last attempt to take down Trump through some kind of legal wrangling that would create some kind of political controversy, some faux political controversy, and it's embarrassing. It's surprising that they even went for it. So Paul Manafort. The Russia-Trump dossier, the true conspiracy theory that Trump had colluded with Russia, falling apart, blowing up in the FBI's face and the Democrat Party of Hillary Clinton's face. And I know I had some stories about that. I forgot to read the headlines for you. From the New York Times, Mueller's first indictment send message to Trump. Here we go from the CNN. Russian politics. First on CNN. First charges filed in Mueller investigation. That was Monday. Forget the date. October 30th, I think. Another headline here for you. Manafort attacks special counsel. Mueller's case as embellished. So that's what we got going on there. Next, this week, Donna Brazille came out with a book and totally threw Hillary Clinton under the bus, claiming that not the exact words, but Hillary Clinton basically stole the election from Bernie Sanders, the Democrat primary from Bernie Sanders. This is a huge blow to Hillary Clinton. I mean, you just have to say, this was reported on InfoWars excessively as it was happening. So, the fact that Donna Brazille is blowing the whistle as an insider, it's going to give the story legs, and you see the, sorry about the analogy, but the noose tightening around Hillary Clinton's neck with all of her crimes catching up to her. Huge, huge story. Let's see here. We got some headlines for you here. See here. Politico magazine, inside Hillary Clinton's secret takeover of the DNC. That's the headline from Donna Brazille. Let's see here. CNN Politics, another one from CNN Politics. Former DNC chair torches Clinton in new book. From Fox News, Donna Brazille, I found proof the DNC rigged the nomination for Hillary Clinton. Wow. Wow. Okay, and from The Hill, Brazille slams Wasserman Schultz for her DNC leadership. Yeah, and I'm bringing that story into it too, and this is just to, again, illustrate how, again, the noose is really beginning to tighten around Hillary Clinton and all the corruption that permeated from her gang, her group of operatives, and that would include people in the FBI, the CIA. You saw the Clinton Foundation being used as a slush fund kind of funnel to run a lot of money in and out of the country. So we haven't even scratched the surface on all this, because Hillary Clinton has been protected politically by the Democrat Party and her supporters. But now you see the rats jumping ship, as they say. Donna Brazille spilling the beans on corruption in the DNC. I wonder how Bernie Sanders supporters feel now. Frankly, I'm looking forward to the day when the Clintons are gone from politics, not just for the Republican Party, because the Republican Party has its own problems. With Donald Trump has basically saved it by burning it to the ground and starting over. And this country, we need a strong Democrat Party. It makes our country stronger. So even though Hillary Clinton is absolutely ravaged, and Barack Obama deserves his credit for destroying the Democrat Party too. After he saved it, he destroyed it. We need to see a strong Democrat Party to see our democracy, our democratic republic thrive. So I am looking forward to the day that the Democrats do throw Hillary Clinton over the bus and try to get some sanity back into their politics. It'll make our country stronger. Moving on, to the next story, and again, feeding the narrative that the media industrial complex, that the government, working with the media industrial complex, the deep state, have lost their ability to control the narrative, the political narrative, the cultural narrative, with we the people, thanks to independent media resources, kind of like this one, but there's millions of us, and this is a very small one. So there's millions of people out there that deserve a lot of credit. Get out there now. Now is a great time to be in independent journalism or independent media. Doesn't necessarily have to be in politics. I would encourage everybody, if you have a skill, if you have something to say, get a camera, put it out there. We're talking about now moving on to the Vegas cover-up. The FBI, basically, the story in Las Vegas, everything going silent. I'm reporting on this because we need to keep it in the news, because, again, the narrative that the FBI lies to us about major events, and a cover-up continues in Las Vegas. I encourage everybody. There's a great researcher gave an interview this week on InfoWars, Shepard Ambellis. He has a IntelliHub page. He's done a lot of great research and shared some really interesting information. Here are a couple headlines. Radar flight data supports Las Vegas shooting helicopter theory. So you see, researchers are looking into the flight patterns. They're looking into all sorts of clues and just events that, citizen journalism has to try to put these events together, because the FBI has clearly lied. In the flight patterns, in this interview that I'd seen on InfoWars with Shepard, let's see here. That was the headline I just read. Vegas flight records reveal well-planned air assault and elaborate getaway extraction, all possibilities, all possible. So that was something that this researcher looked into. I do recommend you look into, again, Shepard Ambellis on IntelliHub, just for some reading on Las Vegas. He also touched up on, again, another couple survivors from the Las Vegas shooting at Mandalay Bay. Headline here. And this is from CNN. Couple who survived Las Vegas shooting die in car crash. Not a lot of details about the crash itself was given, but just more intrigue about what's going on in Las Vegas. Now, this might be a completely unrelated story. It might not have anything to do with the Mandalay Bay shooting. May indeed just be a car crash that killed 2 people, unfortunately. But this story would be added to, I don't want to say an exact number, but at least 4 or 5 strange stories I've seen about survivors in Las Vegas dying from accidents in non-natural ways, people who were not sick. And it definitely adds intrigue to the already enormous pile of intrigue and evidence that there's a cover-up going on in Las Vegas, that the FBI, excuse me, definitely lied to us day one about Steve Paddock being alone in that operation. And again, we see that narrative falling apart. Independent media is blowing it to pieces. So we'll continue to blow it to pieces. Share this video, share this information, discredit the FBI, discredit the media industrial corporate media complex. And again, our next story, moving on to the Hollywood story, that's a continuing ongoing narrative. This narrative started as Harvey Weinstein, and now we are waist deep in pedophilia accusations, in sexual assault accusations. All of Hollywood seems to be coming out and exposing assaults, and it's a very sad thing. Let's see here. I'm just looking through my headlines here, my stack of stuff. You see Corey Feldman has come out and named names. He's another one. Oh, here we go. Kevin Spacey, this is from NBC News. Kevin Spacey, Dustin Hoffman, Jeremy Piven, Brett Ratner, accused of sexual misconduct. From TMZ, Kevin Spacey, accused of trying to molest 14-year-old actor. To point out about this story, and this was really important, when this story came out, I believe it was Tuesday of this week, that this 14-year-old actor had accused Kevin Spacey of basically attempting to assault him at 14. The mainstream media, a lot of the mainstream media within 24 hours came out about, let me back up, Kevin Spacey gave a statement basically coming out as a gay man, and kind of brushed off the whole accusation about, well, the 14-year-old boy that I tried to sexually assault, well, I'm gay. That was basically Kevin Spacey's response, to which there were plenty in the mainstream media who replied, wow, Kevin Spacey's so brave, he came out as gay, And the rest of America is kind of going, no, the story is that he tried to sexually assault a 14-year-old boy, that Kevin Spacey is, by definition, a pedophile. So, but again, it just shows the disconnect in the media narratives, and it adds more fuel to the overarching narrative that the media industrial complex is falling apart. We are exiting the age of misinformation. People don't buy these media narratives anymore. When they see pedophilia, they're calling it pedophilia in the independent media. And that was really a big part of this story, was that the mainstream media basically, and still this day, is defending Hollywood, defending Kevin Spacey. And that's the other thing I wanted to point out too. This was a commentary, but you do not see Hollywood. They never miss a chance. Actors, a lot of musicians had never missed a chance to politicize gun control after a tragedy. They never missed a chance to politicize, global warming after a natural disaster. Never, these actors and musicians never miss a chance to accuse other people of strangers by the millions of hating other people, without a sense of irony. But I digress on that. They always have something to say. They're always very outspoken about these issues, but very few have spoken out, from what I can tell, about pedophilia and what appears to be these kind of loose networks of pedophiles who, I don't know, I guess basically work together to feed their addiction to sexual debauchery with kids. So, but I haven't heard from Matt Damon. I haven't heard from Ben Affleck. I haven't heard from Oprah. I haven't heard from Ellen DeGeneres. I haven't heard from Rosie O'Donnell. Haven't heard from Madonna. I haven't heard from, did I say Leo DiCaprio? Maybe. Haven't heard from any of these people really speaking out strongly about this. You would think there would be more urgency because they're within the community to put a stop to this, but you don't. So it makes me wonder. It makes me think. So Hollywood is just collapsing. They're losing their credibility. Next time these actors do come out and talk about gun control or whatever, it's like, hey, how come you didn't speak out about the pedophilia in your industry? Fix your house first. So Hollywood collapsing. Corey Feldman came out this week, named names. John Grissom was one. Corey Feldman names actor he alleges sexually abused him. So very, kind of very sad in a way. It's good that all these crimes are being exposed and that these people won't be able to get away with these crimes anymore. And But it's sad to know that all this stuff was going on. I mean, it's really crazy. So moving on, what would be the top story in most weeks becomes, the fifth or sixth story, not to diminish what had happened nor the lives that were lost. Headline, New York City terror attack. 8 people killed, 13 injured. Suspect, a 29-year-old Uzbekistan native who was screaming Allahu Akbar. Our God is greater, Allahu Akbar. Radical Islamic terrorism on display in New York City. We had talked about, it turns out he was one of these quote-unquote Syrian refugees, or part of this diversity program that any clear-thinking American was criticizing as we were bringing in who knows how many military-aged Muslim men from countries from chaotic countries, from war-torn countries, no airports, no system of record keeping, Somalia, parts of, this large swaths of the Middle East, North Africa, who knows where these people are coming from. So this Uzbekistan native radical Islamic terrorist killing 8 Americans in New York City, running over people with a truck, screaming Allahu Akbar. Another headline, moving on, just trying to wrap everything up with all these stories. I wanted to point this one out. This is from Deadline Hollywood. It's an entertainment magazine, but Rose McGowan says arrest warrant for narcotics is a load of horse manure. The reason I bring this up, Rose McGowan came out and leveled accusations, I think, against Harvey Weinstein. I'm not sure which Hollywood executive, but you see immediately her coming out and having an arrest warrant for her arrest for narcotics. So I wanted to just demonstrate, the bad guys have ways to strike back, silencing people on Twitter, silencing people on Facebook and YouTube. That's another one we've been talking about, censorship. We'll get into that, but you see this Rose McGowan getting harassed. Well, let me back up. Maybe she does have narcotics, or maybe she was breaking crimes regarding drugs. But my instincts tell me that this was retaliation for speaking out against Hollywood executives. And the story here, the headline is, we should find out why she was arrested, who green-lighted it, and who ordered it. And we need to protect we need to protect whistleblowers. So that's that headline. Finally, domestic news from the president. New Fed chairman selected. Where's that headline? Let's see here. Yes, from CBS News. Trump names Jerome Powell Federal Reserve chairman. This is a huge story that I cannot understate, because part of deep state and part of the political control that has existed in our country for generations also includes economic control. And at the center of that economic control is the Federal Reserve. And I don't have time to get into a longer rant about that now, because we're really pushing up against time. But Trump is making his move for we the people to take the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a private organization. Look into what the reforms that Woodrow Wilson made in 1911 on Christmas Eve to wrestle control of the Federal Reserve to back then, the deep state, but we'll just call it the bureaucracy, the Fed, we'll call it, has been out of the control. Monetary policy has been out of the control of we the people for generations, and that's why you see all this crazy stuff going on. So Trump inserting, and there's more politically going on. Janet Yellen's Federal Reserve kept raising interest rates in an attempt to slow the economy down as Trump had taken over political control. Why did they do this? They did this politics. Because if Trump brings the economy back, it'll be harder for the deep state to remove and regain control. So this is a huge move too. I mean, honestly, again, on any other week, this would be the top story. But so much going on, just an amazing week. And if you're a Trump supporter, if you love America, great things happening right now. Amazing things. Again, we're seeing the end of this era of misinformation. Hollywood is collapsing. The media industrial complex is collapsing. Mainstream media is collapsing. Nobody believes what they say anymore. We are the media now, the independent media. Share this video, make a blog yourself, disseminate information amongst your friends and followers, and we get the truth out there. A couple of really fast commentaries, or just a couple last points. I want to talk about the war on women, which I believe has been a false war on women that has been mostly propagated out of Hollywood. There's a couple thoughts here. I mean, the women of Hollywood have been abused by men using the entertainment industry as a way to menace women for generations. And I think you see these women projecting that abuse onto the other men around the rest of the country. There's that going on. So I think that blows a big hole in the narrative of that there's a war on women going on in this country. Most men I know love women. We have our problems, but I don't think it is as the women of Hollywood would say. Maybe it's their reality because they're around men of Hollywood who we now know are sexually abusing women institutionally, but that's not how the rest of the country operates. The other side of this that's more sinister is I think the true war on women has been weak women trying to tear down strong women by separating strong women from men. If you're like me and if you believe men and women are stronger together, one man is stronger with one woman, then the fastest way to make them weak is to separate them or poison the relationship between them. And I think a lot of this war on women has been a war by women against women to take strong women and to turn them into weak women. And the demonization of men was used as the wedge to create that result. And you see this now. I think it's easy to see this because it's been exposed that the women of Hollywood are, well, a bunch of hypocrites, if you ask me. They sat around and watched all this abuse happen in Hollywood for generations. They know about the pedophile rings, the ones at the top. They didn't speak out. So this war on women propagated by these powerful women of Hollywood, it's just a big phony pile of whatever. And now everyone knows it. And finally, Antifa. I want to point to a researcher, William F. Jasper, of the let's see here, of the New American, part of the John Birch Society. This group looks into communist groups and communist revolutions. Antifa has been planning this November 4th revolution. They wanted to get violent. If they had the support within their own support base to orchestrate a violent overthrow, they would. They are emulating. Let me back up a step. Antifa is just a front group for the revolutionary communists. They share an office. They're funded by the same people. Antifa is just a front group, really pulling in just misguided American youth to rile people up, based on whatever it is, economic class, sexual preference, race, get people riled up and try to foment this revolution on November 4th. It imitates the Bolsheviks, Mao's revolution. It's a communist revolution. Now, what's actually going to happen November 4th? My prediction right now, at this moment, is that the highest probability is that they did not get the support they needed to carry it out, and I think it'll be a dud. I think that's the highest probability, probably 75%. I think there's a high probability, 25%, 1 in 4 is a high probability that Antifa itself, the leftists, are setting themselves up for a false flag attack to, yes, kill their own people so they can blame it on patriots somehow, some way. Find a fall guy, find a patsy, whatever it is, or just try to use the media like they have for the last 50 years to create a narrative that it's the patriots that are out of control and that, they killed all these peaceful Antifa people or whatever. I would say that is probably the next highest probable outcome for November 4th. It's probably going to be a dud, but if it's not a dud, if there is some kind of crazy event, it will be a false flag attack where they kill their own people to blame on the patriots. So that's my prediction. I don't think they have enough firepower and manpower to pull off the revolution that they are claiming to pull off. So not going to happen there. So we'll see, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Long show today. So much happening. History happening before your eyes. Enjoy it. Victory happening before our eyes. Trump administration, we've been on defense the whole time. We're about to take off the gloves. And there's going to be some more terrible news from Hollywood, and more horrible things are about to be exposed, coming out. But I think we've had enough for this week. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys.